Raditz flies off to Earth in order to finally meet his younger brother Kakarot. With Turnip in tow, will this remedial reunion result in respite for Raditz or ruination? Let's see what may have happened if Raditz was sent to planet Namek. The story starts now. Initially, the trip to Earth was rather awkward considering the seating positions, but thankfully the cryosleep feature kicked in and both Saiyans were able to rest through most of it. The two slowly awoke just as their pod crashed into a rural grassland. Raditz quickly got out of his pod, eager to stretch his legs and look upon the planet his brother had grown up on, but admiring would have to wait as Turnip kicked him from the doorway and stepped out herself. She surveyed the area, using her scouter to read for any high power levels, only to be disgusted when the highest she could find was around 500. While the female Saiyan mentioned this planet was full of weaklings, Raditz sensed what seemed like a fight going on. Those two power levels were in a duel, and while the Saiyans couldn't be sure, they thought one of them had to be Kakarot. The two flew off, and while Turnip was relatively unimpressed, she tagged along just to see what this Kakarot was really like. Hopefully he'd be a ruthless Saiyan warrior just like her. Upon arriving in a desolate wasteland, the two found Kakarot and some Namekian fighting in an intense battle. Both Raditz and Turnip were stunned. Kakarot was a spitting image of Bardock, the legendary mid-class warrior. Raditz nearly called him Dad, but stopped himself and simply watched the fight, while Turnip checked his power level once more in disbelief. But their surprise was nothing compared to when Piccolo and Goku finally sensed the massive power of these strangers flying above them.
What are you?
Piccolo asked, his mind melting at the thought that two people could be so powerful.
Who are we? Well, just like Kakarot down there, we are Saiyans.
Raditz puffed his chest out, trying to regain his bravado. The two Earthlings were confused and asked what a Saiyan was, confusing Raditz as well. He then gives the exposition he does in canon, although with slightly nicer words this time. Goku is shocked to learn all this, but is pretty excited to know he has such a strong older brother, even asking him to spar after fighting Piccolo.
Sure thing. I'm glad to see you at least remember how proper Saiyans bond. Go ahead and continue your friendly sparring with this Piccolo fellow.
Raditz casually waved his brother off.
Spar? This is a fight to the death. After I'm done with him, not even the Dragon Balls will be able to revive him.
The two Saiyans are surprised to hear Piccolo talk so harshly, and as for Turnip, this is her first time hearing of the Dragon Balls. Remembering that Turles escaped, she turns her scouter communications on, though since she doesn't know what frequency Turles is using now, she leaves it open for anyone to hear. They watch as Goku and Piccolo continue their fierce battle, culminating in a beam struggle between the Special Beam Cannon and Kamehameha. Nobody notices at first, but it's soon revealed the Makanko Sapo can drill through Goku's attack. The beam starts making its way towards Kakarot, it being too fast for him to dodge or block. Luckily, Raditz steps in and smacks the blast away into a nearby mountain, to the surprise of everyone there.
Hey, what's the big deal? I had him. How dare you step in and...
But Piccolo didn't get another word in before he too was sent flying into the nearby mountain. Well, it was more of a hill by now.
I didn't come all this way just to see my baby brother fall in combat. Speaking of which, we need to train you up, Kakarot.
Training, huh? You really think I could get as strong as you? With that, the two sons of Bardock began talking about the training both had gone through, with Raditz chalking up the strength difference to his planet having stronger life forms. But in his excitement, the Radish forgot all about Turnip, who gave up on Goku and was now interested in this seemingly evil Namekian. She found over and found Piccolo healing himself within the crater.
What are you looking at? Here to finish what your buddy started?
Piccolo said, readying himself for a fight. Oh no, I'd never dream of fighting such a weakling, but these Dragon Balls.
Now that interests me. And I have a feeling strength is something that interests you.
Turnip gave the Namekian a devious smile. Piccolo was a bit confused at first, but Turnip elaborated on this, saying that she could help the Namekian get stronger in exchange for her getting to use the Dragon Balls. Piccolo was a bit suspicious of why she'd want the orbs, but if she could get him to be stronger than Goku, then he'd trust her. For now, that is. He explained how the wish orbs worked, but that they had been used recently, so they'd have to wait a year to recharge. Turnip was a bit annoyed by this and wondered if sneaking off back to Namek would be a better use of her time, but decided against it. She'd rather spend a year getting stronger than flying back to that planet full of slugs. And so, for a year, everyone got to bond, although Turnip and Piccolo weren't exactly friends by the end of their time together. Raditz had a good time experiencing the food Earth had to offer, and was ecstatic when meeting his new nephew. He had no idea Saiyans and Earthlings could sire children, but this revelation was huge. Perhaps the Saiyan race wasn't done for after all. Not to mention, Gohan was pretty nice and well-mannered, something Namekian society valued and tried to drill into Raditz. While the Saiyan wished his brother and nephew were stronger, he was happy they managed to live a good life and integrate into Earth society so well. While the Raditz still had memories of planet Vegeta, what he experienced on Namek had influenced him as well, and Earth was honestly something like the perfect mix between the two. This was further reinforced when Raditz met the other Z-fighters, all martial artists who loved fighting, though were less ruthless than the Saiyans. Now, while Raditz was mostly spending time with his brother, he was keeping tabs on Turnip, and occasionally dragged her around Earth in order to experience it as well. While she was often disinterested in anything besides food, the likes of the Z-fighters did catch her attention, and especially Tien, as he was the strongest out of all of them. Whenever she was around, Krillin and Yamcha often got scared and avoided her, but Tien never did. He knew she was stronger, but his no-nonsense attitude, and trash talk, persisted, and he was the only human willing to spar with her consistently. This impressed Turnip so much so that she actually made it a point to train with Tien occasionally, though this was only due to the fact that his potential was about the same as Piccolo's, meaning he grew stronger every time they met. Now this made Earth have some value in Turnip's eyes, though she still wanted to use it for the last Tree of Might. But maybe she'd save Piccolo and Tien if they grew strong enough. Raditz watched Turnip slowly grow more fond of Earth's food and people from afar, and was pleased that she was at least on speaking terms with Tien, someone he considered an honorable fighter. But he could vaguely sense that she still had some evil within her heart. While he often talked with the Saiyan, it was always regarding either fighting, food, or the strength of their training partners, so he eventually kinda just gave up and hoped she would change over time, like he did. Now, speaking of changing over time, let's go over the relative strength of everyone on Earth. Raditz is around 45k due to his Zenkai. Turnip is still around 42k, Goku is at a whopping 25, Piccolo is at 20, and Tien, well, he's around 19. Now, while some people may be thinking this is crazy, it really isn't. When Goku can go from 300 to 8k in less than a year with King Kai, I think training with somebody stronger than him for a full year would get even crazier results, especially without him having to learn Kaioken or the Spirit Bomb. The humans in Piccolo also have some crazy feats, since they got around a 3 to 4 times boost from training with Kami, and while Turnip isn't as wise as him, she's far stronger. Anyways, this isn't a power scaling video, so let's see what happens once this year of training is up. Turnip, using her sway with Tien, would attempt to use him to gather the Dragon Balls, but the human isn't budging. He may have been training with her, but he knows she has less than savory intentions. She of course flips out on the Triclops, but he simply refuses to help her get the Dragon Balls, and that's that. Luckily, Piccolo is able to reveal that Bulma has a dragon radar, and Turnip easily steals it. 6 of the Dragon Balls are gathered without issue, although the last one is placed in a rather precarious place. It's the 4-star Dragon Ball sewn onto Gohan's hat. While normally he'd be an easy target, with Raditz around, he's slightly more into training, and today is one of those days where Raditz, Goku, and Gohan are all sparring. While Piccolo wants to just fly in and steal the ball willy-nilly, Turnip has a better idea. She insists they wait till the end of the day, when everyone is tired and off guard. Once time passes, Goku sends Gohan in to check on dinner, cause of course he would, and this is when Turnip strikes. Piccolo launches a ki blast at the ground, causing dirt and smoke to billow up, while Turnip flies in and rips the Dragon Ball right off of Gohan's hat. The Saiyan brothers are able to sense who's there, and just as the villain is about to fly off, Raditz flies in and kicks her into a nearby tree. The kick was surprisingly strong, causing her to lose a Dragon Ball, it rolling off into the nearby forest. Now it starts a fight between the two, with Raditz trying to question what her intentions are with the Dragon Balls. Turnip simply states that it's to defeat Frieza, but Raditz is still suspicious of this and doesn't let up. Meanwhile, Goku is busy fighting off Piccolo, who took the opportunity to sneak attack the Saiyan, injuring him with a massive ki blast. With their fatigue and this sneak attack, Turnip and Piccolo are able to keep up with the Saiyan brothers, but as these fights are going on, a different pair of fighters arrive on Earth. See, Turnip had intended for Turles to hear what Piccolo said about the Dragon Balls, but someone else had been listening. One of Frieza's subordinates had reported this information to his higher-ups, and soon the entirety of the Frieza force had been talking about these magic orbs. Now, while Frieza could have traveled to Earth, he was far closer to the Namekian homeworld. But that doesn't mean Earth was completely safe, as a certain Saiyan prince was pretty close by. Nappa and Vegeta arrive a little after the fight between Raditz and Turnip begins. Nappa blows up a city like normal, but this time, Tien and the other humans respond. Of course, they could sense the other fight going on, but these guys had to be dealt with now.
We only got the attention of these lowly scum. Nappa, take care of this trash. I'll search for the slug man myself. Oh, no you don't. I think I'll be enough for the two of you.
Tien took off his training weights, and just that was enough to ping Nappa's scouter. Tien's resting power level was around 1k, which gave the brute an idea. Since there were so many humans, perhaps they'd make good opponents for the Cybermen. He plants them, and once they're ready to go, Tien challenges and defeats them all with a single punch, though decides to let them live. Vegeta goes to blast them all away, but Tien steps in once again and blows the blast away with a ki, which both relieves and disturbs Nappa. Just how strong are these Earthlings? Nappa powers up and charges Tien, but after a few hits, this brute is knocked out as well. Now, while Vegeta is rather livid at how weak Nappa and the Cybermen are, his Saiyan blood is also beginning to boil. He steps up to Tien, and this is where the real battle begins. While the Triclops is more powerful than Vegeta, the Saiyan is far more capable than his previous opponents. Nappa was a brute and was easy to dodge and hit, but Vegeta actually has some skill, being able to parry and dodge much easier than Nappa could. While the prince is angry that a lowly Earthling could be on his level, it's not like he hasn't fought strong opponents before, and he's confident in his abilities. But as Tien begins ramping up in strength, Vegeta's confidence begins to fade, causing him to take more and more hits and kicks. This eventually causes the prince to finally get angry enough to pull back and begin charging up his Gallic gun. Tien didn't want to use Ki Blast, especially not the Tri-Beam, but he can feel the sheer amount of power Vegeta is pouring into his blast. The Triclops sighs and begins charging up his Tri-Beam, apologizing in advance for what he has to do. The two beams clash in the middle, the pure force of which sending Yamcha, Krillin, and Chaozu flying away. Once the humans recover, they look up to see Vegeta's beam slowly being pushed back. The Saiyan Prince is desperately trying to push back, but the Tri-Beam is just slightly stronger. Before long, his beam is pushed into his hands, causing a huge explosion that rocks the nearby environment. Tien is left panting as he watches Vegeta's smoking body fall back to the earth, while the remaining Z-Fighters cheer. But for as triumphant as Tien feels, he can still sense the prince is alive, along with Nappa and the Cybermen. Now, the Triclops had been preparing for the day either Piccolo or Turnip turned on them, so he carried around a certain container at all times, so he could at least seal one of his opponents. Tien flew over, seeing Vegeta struggling to stand up, holding a giant orb of light in his hands. When Vegeta saw the Triclops, he immediately threw the orb into the air, yelling out, "Burst and mix!" Tien, being the smart fighter he is, wastes no time in quickly casting the Mafuba on Vegeta. The prince initially begins to laugh as he slowly grows in size, but starts panicking as the green energy surrounds and pulls him into the jar. Since Tien was able to get him mid-transformation, the prince wasn't powerful enough to break out of the technique and was successfully sealed within the small capsule. But, just as Vegeta was secured, Tien heard a giant foot stomp behind him. The Triclops turns around to see Great Ape Nappa holding Krillin and Chaozu in each of his hands, crushing them while grinning down at Tien. But that's where we're going to leave it off for right now. If you enjoyed this part, I'd appreciate it if you Gallic gun that like button, or maybe even try beam that subscribe button. Honestly, I was hoping to get this out as a 400 sub special, but we haven't quite gotten there by the time I'm writing this. But honestly, that's okay. We're still approaching that goal at light speed, and I'm incredibly thankful for each and every one of you, even those who aren't subbed. And hey, maybe by the time this goes up, we will be at 400. But if not, boy do I have an interesting what if, possibly concerning Fusion, as the perfect 400 sub special. Also, man, I have some awesome ideas regarding this what if, but that'll have to wait for another time. Also, I guess, 3 alsos, right? Kind of sorry for the quality of voice work on this one. My allergies are really bad. They've been really bad the past few weeks, but I kind of feel sick almost. Anyways, yeah, sorry about that. Hopefully you guys can put up with it. But with all that said, you guys have a good day or night wherever you are. That's it for now. Bye bye.